I'm Kat and I play red. Today we've got something a little bit different. We are going to have a look at Arkwright, the card game, made by Game Brewer, currently on Kickstarter and designed by Stefan Riesthaus. For those of you who know, Arkwright is a very heavy economic board game designed by Stefan Riesthaus that's amazing. Go and buy it. But if you don't have the time or the table space for it, which is quite likely, Arkwright the card game gives you a very similar feel with a smaller table presence and a smaller playtime. So let's have a look at it. Arkwright the card game is played over 3 decades, the 1770s, 1780s and 1790s, as represented on this track here. Each decade is made up of 4 rounds, again indicated by this marker. Each round comprises of 2 phases, an action phase and a production phase. However, in the production phase, only the indicated good will produce. So, in the first round here, food will be produced. The second round, clothes, then cutlery, then lamps. So, overall, each different type of good will be produced 3 times, once per decade. We're set up here for the 2-player game. The colours playing are green and blue. There's no red in this game. I mean, really, what's going on? As a random setup, the start player will take the bread factories and the lamp factories. As the blue player, I get to take the clove and cutlery factories, which are over here. So, here's my clothing factory. I start with an office in place here and some workers. Same with my cutlery factory. Then I have my player board. So there's quite a lot going on here. Over the course of this video, we'll explain what a lot of it means. The first part of each phase is the action phase. Phase 1, if you look at the player aid here. The first part of the action phase is your chance to do an action. You can do any of the 5 marked here. 6 and 7 are for the advanced game, hence the little black bag, so we're not looking at those now. The first action available to you is you can build a factory. I currently have a clothes and a cutlery factory. So I could, if I wanted to, build a food factory or a lamp factory, but I don't want to do that just now. So the other action here is to upgrade your factories. If you notice, these workers and the factories are marked with a 1 for the era. In era 2, I can turn these over and the production will be more, even though some of the operating costs will be more. The second thing I can do is add more workers, which adds more production and again will cost me more. Number 3 is to automate my factories. As you can see here, if I flip over this card, it has 2 machines. Machines are actually cheaper to operate than workers, so this can be a bonus, especially later in the game when money is tight. Number 4, I can add quality or distribution cards to my factory. We'll come on to what those do in a little bit. And the 5th action is to do with the stock market. I can spend money to buy shares. I can take out a loan if I need to, or I can reset my ship. All of these actions will become a little clearer later on in the game. So, for now, I'm going to look at the choices, and I think what I'm going to do is automate one of my factories. I'm going to automate my clothing factory. If I flip this card over, I'm going to go from 3 workers to 2 factories. So let's do that. There we go. So that's done. The second part of the action phase is to set your levels for any product that you might be selling this turn. Well, this turn is food, according to the board, and I don't have any food, so I won't be doing that until next turn when we deal with the clothes. The third part of the action phase is the development phase. This applies to anything with a cog, as shown here, and this is where the player board comes into effect. So, as a development action, I can move any of these 6 markers up a level. What do these do? Well, let's have a look. So, remember I was talking about buying shares. This here allows me to buy my first share for half price. Subsequent shares cost the full amount. If I manage to move it up to here, I can buy 2 for half price. This symbol here represents the cards we're going to be using throughout the game. At the moment, each factory can only actually have 2 cards attached to it. However, if I move it up, I can have 3 cards or 4 cards attached to each factory. It also applies to the development cards that you have as a player. This track here is for your quality. This is the number of quality points you can attach to each factory in a turn, up to a maximum of 4 on each factory. So at the moment I can only attach 1. However, the further up I move, the more I can attach per turn. This here is distribution and basically works the same way as quality. Again, it indicates the number I can attach to each factory in a turn. Over here is our mechanise, which is the action I've just done. This indicates that I can upgrade to 2 factories in a turn, which is what I did. However, if I'd been higher up, if I'd been, say, here, I could have mechanised 4 workers. So not only would I have been able to do the factory here and the 2 workers, but I also would have been able to have mechanised this factory for the 2 machines shown there. But I'm not that advanced yet, so I only flip that one now. The boat symbol here indicates the number of goods that you can place on each boat to ship out during the production phase. So for now, I want to start looking at boosting my clothing because that's what I'm going to be selling next turn. So I think I'm going to up the cards here. These tracks at the top of the board here indicate the number of shares you have and the value of those shares. This will be your final score at the end of the game. You'll multiply your number of shares by the value to get your final score. So, if I had 10 shares that were £15 each, my final score would be 150, as an example. But for now, I just have 10 at £10 each. As well as moving up the development tracks on your board here, the other thing you can do as a development action is take one of the available development cards. Now, these all vary and will change again with player count, so don't pay too much attention to the ones we have here because they're all different. However, each player will start the game with one. So, this is the one that I started with. This actually means that I don't pay costs for the 2 first machines in any factory when I run it. So, after phase 1 has been completed, we go on to phase 2, which is production. Now, for this round, I don't have any food factories, so my opponent would do their production round. However, I don't do anything, so that's a bit rubbish. Let's quickly move on to the next turn, which will be for close. So at the end of the round, the start player card moves to the next player, and we go back to phase 1 of the turn, when I get to do an action. Now, I can have 3 cards on each factory, and I'm about to produce clothes. So I'm going to focus here on my clothing factory. So I think what I'm going to do is add some distribution. I can only add 2 onto it at the moment, as it shows on my track there. So let's find my number 2 card here and place that in my factory. If you notice, these very cute and neat lampposts line up, so you end up with a street effect, which is cool. So that was my action. Now I get to set my appeal and price levels for my clothes. So the current demand, according to the appeal board, is 0. So I'm going to produce 3. I want to be able to sell 3. So I'm actually going to set my appeal, let's have a look, to a total of 4. 2 from my main board here and 2 bonus from my distribution here. The cost per good is going to be 3 plus 4, so £7 each. So I'm going to move my appeal marker from 0 to 4. However, you'll notice these little arrows on the board. Moving from 0 to 4, I've gone past 2 of them. So the demand marker is going to move up by 2. Now I get to do my development action, which, oh, I don't know right now. I'm actually going to take a card. I'm going to take this card here that means the cost of my workers is 2 less on a factory, up to a maximum of 4 workers. And I'm actually going to put that on my cutlery factory here, ready for next turn. So now my opponent would have their action phase and we move into the production phase. So I'm producing 3 sets of clothing. I can sell 1, 2, 3 to the local market. 3 is the difference between my appeal marker and the demand marker. So 1, 2, 3. So I get to sell 3 goods at 7 each to the home market for a total of £21. So I move my marker on the money track here up by 21. However, factories are expensive things to run. So now I need to pay the costs of my factory. So I need to pay the cost of the factory as shown here and the cost of my workers and machines. So because of my development card, I don't pay at all for these 2 machines. My 3rd machine cost me 1. Machines will always cost you 1. And my 2 workers will cost me 3 each, as shown on the bottom of the board. So I'm paying 7 for the workers plus 9 for the factory, so 16. So that takes me back, goodness, trying to count on camera, to 55 money. And that's my production phase. Now, as per the player aid, part D, I sold 2 or more goods to the home market, so my share value will go up by £1. I also have the highest appeal for clothing on the track here, so my share value will go up by another 1. So my endgame score is now 10 times 12, 120. So effectively, I've gained £20 this turn. The last part of the production phase is to reduce any distribution cards you have. So distribution represents all those trucks going out to deliver your goods, but they're going to have wear and tear. So this will go from a 2 down to a 1. The thing to note with these cards is they're all double-sided and double fronted and everything. So each of your factories starts with an office card applicable to a specific goods. You can place this either showing the money or showing the appeal when you set the values. Same with these. Also, the worker cards, you saw when I automated it, I flipped it over. But when we go into phase 2, you can flip these over as well. So you do need to keep an eye on what direction all your cards are over the course of a game. I produced 3 lots of clothing, all of which I could sell to the home market. However, if you can't sell them all, if my appeal had been down here, I'd have only been able to sell 1, which would have left 2 goods. Now, those goods are never physically represented in the game. However, what I could do is use my ship. Do you remember here when I said about shipping goods? So, I could use my ship to ship 2 goods to the overseas market. I'd get the same price, however, my ship would flip this way and I'd only be able to use 1 ship on the next turn. When I use a ship, I place a marker up here, which will affect my endgame score. The other option would have been to put the extra goods into storage. So here I could store 1 good or 2 goods. So, however, I couldn't put that on this factory as I already have the 3 cards. If I didn't have this, I could put this side to represent the fact I have 2 of these goods ready and waiting for someone to buy. However, I managed to sell all my goods to the home market, so I don't need that storage, and I'll put my distribution back onto my clothing factory. So again, at the end of the round, the turn order would change and we go into the 3rd phase of the first decade, which will be producing cutlery. So again, this is a factory I have, so when it comes to the production, I need to work out what I want to do. So, just to show you, I'm going to add some quality to this factory. Now, my quality on my main player board is at +1, so I can only add 1 to it. The quality cards are slightly different to the distribution in that distribution only adds appeal. However, quality can add either money or appeal. When you set your levels, you'll choose which way up you want it to go. Bear in mind that the back is a 2, so keep an eye and make sure that you've always got the right side up on the cards. So, my action will be to take that card and pop it there. Now I get to set my levels. So, I'm going to be producing 2 cutlery. Obviously, it's best to sell them to the home market for that nice stock price bump. So, let's have a look. Ideally, I want to be at 3. So, I'm going to go to 3. I'm only going past the 1 arrow. So the demand marker moves up by 1. So 3. So my price will be 8 and my appeal is 3. So let's then do a development action, which is going to be the stock price, because we'll buy some stocks in a minute and show you how that works. So that is going to be my development action. And then we're going to move on to production. So my 2 cutlery are going to sell for £8 each. It's nice to be able to say pounds and not worry about it. I can sell both to the home market because there's 2 between the demand marker and my appeal. So I sell 2 for 8 each, so 16. 71. However, again, the factory is going to cost me money to run. So my first 2 factories are free, 10 for the actual factory, and then my workers are at -2 each. So that's going to cost me 1, 2, 3, 4. So a total of 14. So maths on camera is not very good. So I have 57 money. I've produced, I sold 2 to the home market, so I go up 1 point, and I have the highest appeal, so my share value goes up another 1. The cost of workers will vary throughout the course of the game, according to this track here. Machines will always cost £1 to run. The cost of workers will move up if a player buys a factory or buys extra workers, in which case this cube moves forward 1 and all the demand markers on the board will move down 1. So if I'd bought another factory, these will all move down. So we've touched on the money track up here, but what does it do? Well, this is what enables you to buy shares and hopefully win the game. So as one of your actions in phase 1, number 5, the stock market. Here I can buy shares. So my shares cost 14 each. My first one, however, is half price. So my first one will cost me 7. So let's buy 1 and see how much money we have left. So I've got 50, so I can buy 3 at 14, which is 42, which will leave me with 8. And I'll go up 1, 2, 3, and hope my factories make some more money. So now my endgame score is 14 times 14, which I'm not even going to try and do off the top of my head quickly on camera. At the end of the game, when you're totaling these up, points will need to be deducted for the number of ships you've used over the game. So if I'd sent out 3 ships, my value would be at -2. If I'd had to take loans out during the game, my number of shares would decrease. So in this case, it would be 1. And my 14 times 14 has now become 12 times 13. After the 3rd cutlery round, we move on to the oil round. We do the same. We have the action phase and production phase, and then we'd move into the next decade. To determine player order, each player adds up their total score, and the player with the lowest amount decides who can go first. Any development cards that have been activated over the round are now available to use again, and we go back starting with bread. At the end of the 3rd decade, any money left in the bank can be used for buying shares. Final adjustments are taken into account and scores are calculated, and the player with the most wins. Arkwright, the card game, almost feels misnamed. This isn't a card game. This is Arkwright. This is definitely the heaviest card game we've ever played. It's very much an economic game in the vein of Arkwright. So if you're buying a card game and expecting something that's fun for the family, this is not your game. If you want something that you can set up and play in maybe about an hour with 2 or 3 players, this is the game for you. If you can't be bothered to set up all the workers on Arkwright, the board game, this is for you. Check it out. It's currently on Kickstarter at the moment. I think there's not too long to go. It's a great price. There's a load of stuff in the box. Obviously this here that I'm dealing with is a prototype, but the quality is amazing, as is anything from Game Brewer. So for your money, if you like economic games, if you like heavy games, You can't go wrong. Check it out. I'll put a link in the description. Hope you enjoyed this video. Follow me on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. See you all next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.